You have the term meta-politics, which is...
Meta-politics, because this is what seeps into the mind of young people. So when those young people, when they meet tomorrow some leftist guy who starts telling them about multiculturalism or whatever, he knows how to respond to that right away. He will be able to counterbalance him. And that's how we have to start.
But there's also this other point, which we mostly get from Dr. David Duke, you know, with there's this urgency. We're like in a cultural war, and the opponents, the other side, are sort of the winning side at the moment, the dominant side, and also they had this other urgency, which you were commenting on very much yesterday. You call it this messianic mindset, like you have it in the monotheism, you have it in communism. You draw the line actually back from the Old Testament, I think, and through Christianity, and see it in later movements. Could you say a little bit more about that?
By all means, well, there are two topics I would like to distinguish here. I must tell you quite critically, we need to enlarge our horizons. Many of my fellow intellectuals who are more or less who share the same intellectual sensibility happen to be, just as the Germans say, Fachidioten, you know. They just deal with one single issue. In this specific case, it's only Judaism, which is fine. There are some excellent and brilliant books by some of our friends and colleagues who have done excellent analysis on Judaism and the Jewish influence and the Jewish role in our modern society. And on the other hand, there are also some brilliant people I've known, some top-notch scholars like Philip Rushton, Manberg, whatever. There are quite a few of them who are really top-notch scholars as far as the race and as far as the IQ is concerned, which is perfectly fine, and I certainly would encourage you with that. But we always need to make a step further. We have to provide a larger picture. Let me just give you a little bit of background. We should enlarge our horizons and bring in scholars, bring in poets, bring in authors like Swedenborg, like Knud Eriksen, like, for instance, even Munch, despite the fact that he was expressionist, but he was very popular and among the nationalists in Europe as well. So this is the whole array of things we need to bring into our discussions, and not just stick with one. And why I'm telling you that? Because this is exactly how the left proceeded. You just don't want to stick with one issue because you're making yourself, and I'll tell you quite frankly, I don't want to be specific against my friends, they're my good friends, but if you just harp on one single issue, you turn yourself into a laughing stock. You are not taken seriously. What we have to work on is our credibility, our intellectual credibility, so we can fight our intellectual enemy on all fronts.
Yeah. It takes a lot of people and
takes a lot of people, takes a lot of energy. And yes, of course, we know what the big issue is, and of course we know about Judaism, we know about race, we know about the big immigration. But I, for my part, I'm always trying to extend the issue. Like I said yesterday, I cannot now specifically target a guy from Pakistan, or let's say from Somalia, who comes here illegally and who lives on a dole system. I'm specifically interested in what brought him here in the first place. So what brought him here is this mythology of egalitarianism, multiracialism, multiculturalism, of course with the big bucks, with the big banking system. So this is something we have to look at critically, and I wrote very extensively about liberalism and the genesis of liberalism, how it actually developed from the 18th century all the way to now. So these are issues, I must say that can be explained on the academic level, but they can also be explained in a very popular and populistic level.
So it's more or less a question of both. It's not either or. It's like some of the people, very intelligent people in this movement, are more to the core of the problems. Others like to expand, like you expand over the whole horizon, which we need also, obviously.
Absolutely, we need that, and I know it unfortunately from our experience, because basically those closed type of meetings where we talk just about one issue, like for my friends in the United States of America, where they talk about the IQs, and then they spend the whole afternoon talking about, which is fine. But if you want to do something on this cultural front, if you want to win the battle, if you want to get some political hegemony, not just cultural hegemony, we have to bring about the whole array of different issues, from literature to music to art, and of course the discourse. The left is much able in following the discourse.
What do you mean exactly by the discourse?
Okay.
It's not a well-known...
Yes, let me tell you, of course, this is the major thing. Even Orwell wrote about this, so you probably read Orwell in 47, 48 when he published this book, not necessarily the one, The Animal Farm, but there is a book, essay he wrote on the English language. So he basically realized how words are subject to semantic distortions. Like, for instance, the word, let's say, Nazi. Nazi today is no longer a political denomination. Nazi has become a word, a synonym. If you want to shut up somebody, if you want to discredit somebody, if your dog, for instance, or for instance, when you're angry at your wife, you call your wife, you're a Nazi. If you have a dog at your place and he makes dirt all around, you call him a Nazi. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Or for instance, hate speech. This is a new verbal construct which was launched by liberal intelligentsia in the late 80s in America. But this is a nonsense word, so we have to first deconstruct those words. Once you deconstruct those words, you'll be able to deconstruct the concepts. Because now we have been victimized. We have truly been victimized by words such as democracy, human rights, Nazi, racist. Those words are meaningless. We have to know exactly. And I'm suggesting that we are the ones who should impose our own discourse.
Obviously, we should do that. And you're doing your best also because, for instance, in the USA, you have your own radio channel.
Yes, I have my radio.
The Sunic Journal, which has many interesting people in there to give their view. And obviously, you direct them a little bit to what you think is interesting and what you think they could add to the discourse. So
absolutely, and I'm having, just now I've recorded 3 shows on what to read and how to read.
Exactly.
For instance,
that one.
Like the one is going to be aired, of course, we've heard about Jean-Paul Sartre, you have heard about Camus, you have heard about Boel and Handke and all those left-leaning, how do you say, scholars and novelists. But you also have to hear about the other side. I would like to see on the syllabus of students in Copenhagen the works of Knud Eriksen. I would like to see on the syllabus of German students the works of Ernst Jünger. He was a great novelist and a great essayist. So basically what I'm providing in my show is the names and of course the interpretation of the text by some authors who, for political reasons, just fell into oblivion or who fell in disgrace.
Yes, and you really, you have a 3rd show planned, but you have already 2 shows of what to read, but you also say how to read it and what not to read.
Absolutely.
Because not to waste your time, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely, because again, I'm telling you that from my communist experience, because I was fortunate enough, I lived both in capitalism and communism, so I saw how similar they are in terms of this intellectual inquisition. Like for instance, in Europe, in the communist Yugoslavia, we only had to learn to read authors, more or less, the French even authors, the German authors, who were of the Marxian proclivity, or the Marxian background. But we never had a chance to read some quote-unquote nationalist authors. I'm talking specifically about novelists. But there are also sociologists, anthropologists on our side, and every good scholarship requires that you are open to both sides. Let the students then make up their mind, which tells you again that between liberalism in the United States of America and communism in Yugoslavia, there wasn't much difference in terms of scholarship. It was pretty rigid, very much repressive, and we were basically spoon-fed with the literature, with the politically correct literature.
But you also mentioned yesterday a very important thing is that we should not, even if we look like we're the weak side, we should not be afraid of the opposition because, I mean, it could turn in a few seconds, like you saw the communists turn in
Croatia. Absolutely. Again, I will tell you, there is a natural tendency to overestimate our opponents because, of course, not just only do they have cultural power, they have political power, they have police power. But then again, do not assume ever, regardless of what the name of the regime is, be it the National Socialist, Fascist, so on and so on, even I'm trying to read their mind because I was also in the system for a while, so I guess I'm pretty much qualified to say that. Even among them there are disputes and quarrels, and you just have to wait for the right moment and this whole system starts crumbling down. Like the communist system crumbled down literally within a couple of weeks, within a month. And the same people who are actually the standard bearers, who are the carriers of the system, just, you know, went back to their my mouse holes. They just hid away, or they changed they rebranded themselves differently.
Yeah.
So again, all what I'm basically not laying the blame on my liberal, or if you wish, leftist or Marxist opponents. I'm laying the blame, and I have to tell you that's very important, on ourselves. There is a little bit of, well, there is too much individualism among ourselves, even among our scholars, our national scholars in the United States, in France, in Croatia. We all tend to be a little bit too individualistic.
That's our big fault.
We have to work for our people, and I want to serve my people. I'm not serving myself.
No. And I think you're doing this as an intellectual very well by these programs, yes. Because we need guidance in this area.
Yes.
How to read it, and even getting the names.
Getting the names, precisely.
Like you mentioned that 40,000 titles of books,
yes,
have been banned after the Second World War.
Absolutely.
Where are they?
Yes.
Do you find any?
Well, some of them are available now, if there's no question. There was the first year, and some of them, of course, lots of them can be downloaded thanks to the internet, but lots of them simply disappeared. You'd be surprised specifically, and again, I'm not talking about the National Socialist author. Those books were not published in the 30s, even prior to the National Socialist arrival to power, particularly on the realm of anthropology and Jewish question. Lots of them. Federer, Vintelova, and so many of them I am downloading daily on a daily basis. So yes, there must be such an interest, but as you said very well, we have to have some spiritual guidance, intellectual guidance.
And you just mentioned one important thing. We're getting close to. We need something to eat.
Sure.
And but this Jewish question is something which it pops up everywhere. And it pops up here too. It's not only pops up; it's an important part of it. But in this new right, and with many of the nationalist parties, it's like a dirty thing. It's something you cannot talk about. But if you cannot name the opponent, if you cannot name those who are actually distorting the culture and who are in power today to keep on distorting it, I mean, how can you get to the center of this thing? So I think this European new right has to find out. Is it a matter of courage? You think it's something else?
Of course, it's a matter of civic courage. There's no question about that. Well, let me tell you quite frankly, I'm very critical of Judaism, and I'm of course very critical of the Jewish spirit nowadays that you see all over, be it on TV and so on. But having said that, it doesn't mean that I'm not as critical of other monotheistic religions. And I spoke about this quite extensively, yes. That you cannot have a normal and sound and sane relationship towards the Jews, while at the same time accepting their conceptual world and their deities in a figurative sense, of course, and then start hating them. I guess that things would be much, much better between us and them, because I respect them for what they are, however good or crazy they may be.